Good evening. My name is Guido Trivellini. I work for an organization called Eliante. It's a technical organization. This is a technical presentation. And it regards an experience we had with Manitese and the WWF and the NECOFA, which is an NGO from Kenya, about participatory mapping of biodiversity in the eastern Mau forest. This means that I would like to switch from the relationship between the human communities, the democracy, the political, the agriculture, the managed territory, as I heard a few words ago, to nature. Because we think that nature and especially tropical forest, they are still behind and biodiversity, they are still behind the power of the communities living in, especially in these areas of the world. And also the seeds, the biodiversity of the seeds of the agriculture, finally they come from the biodiversity of nature. So the work has been done in 2013, and the first phase of the work was a workshop with the community. So basically we clustered 19 informants whose profile was what you see there. So farmers, cattle raisers, hunters, beekeepers, and herbalists, in order to work together with them for realizing a participatory assessment of the biodiversity of the Mau forest. Mau forest is one of the most important mountain rainforests that still exist in the world. It's inhabited basically by a population that's called OGEC. They are basically beekeepers, and not only, but that is the traditional activity. So we mapped the biodiversity and the ecosystem services to understand what is happening in this forest. The main problem of this forest is the plantations of exotic wood planted by the state in order to realize furniture, which has decreased dramatically the level of biodiversity in the area. We were requested in the beginning to do some lessons in order to get in touch with the community and to explain the basic concept of ecology, allowing the people to realize by themselves a forest participatory plan in the future. But after this phase, together with the population, we started collecting data from the population. And we identified together with them some targets. Targets means target species for biodiversity, but not only. Also ecosystem services, as you will see in a few slides, like hunting, beekeeping, or fishing in the forest. In order to ensure people to talk about the same species we were meaning by the scientific point of view, I mean, in order to ensure ourselves to understand them, because they were collecting data, not us. We asked them also to give us the name in the double language, which was Ogiek language and a Maasai language. There is a part of the community composed by Maasai also there. So basically, we mapped biodiversity regarding basically birds and mammals, ecosystem services, and also identification of threats and fragmentation analysis of the forest, and also potential touristic sites intended as ecosystem services, because tourism can bring resources. I don't know if this picture is really visible, but I mean, this is just a moment from the workshop. And these are some of the maps we produced where people were requested to draw physically on the map, identifying all the targets that I have reported up to now. This is another moment of the people working actively on software also, on GIS, and using also technology. And let me say that the relationship and the results of the use of the highest technology with the community was very good. They really liked that, and they really got involved in the work. So, mapping the ecosystem services as tourism site, I said. It was, as an example, caves, waterfalls, traditionally apiary sites, forest transects, and monument trees. So the community wanted to realize a work of tourism in order to bring money and resource to the forest. And regarding the biodiversity, and people mapped, I said, and they started drawing on the map the presence and the absence of the animals. So some sentences, they were very interesting for us. As an example, some people, they said some disappeared species elsewhere remained in Chibuin. Chibuin is the largest area of the forest. So people started explicating to us that where the forest was intact, where the forest was a good quality forest, some species, the most delicate species, animal species, they remained. In other areas, they went away. And the same, doing interviews with people collecting resources in the wood. People explain to us that comparing the situation of now with the situation of before, they had to work more because some resources as wood, as medicine coming from the forest, they disappeared in many areas of the forest. We also used a map from the University of Maryland based on satellite data to understand if the results that we were collecting they were correct, and they were. Mapping biodiversity, animal biodiversity, it was based basically on the use on two different taxa, two animal groups, birds and mammals. And we used the double criteria using scientific literature to identify a checklist of sensitive species to the quality of the forest, and another checklist from BirdLife International to understand which species they were belonging to the Mau forest. So people, they were requested area per area, every field is an area of the forest, to say 0 if the species was detected by them as absent, 1 if the species was detected sometimes, and 2 if they considered the species to be very present. So this matrix was a tool for us in order to create an objectivity, in order to create also numeric value about the species detectability from the people. So I think that we can say that there is an objectivity because, as you see, it's based on average. So both the species and the areas, they finally has a value, identifying which are the most sensitive species and the most important areas. And this is based, all of this is based on the detectability of the species living in this forest. The same was done with the mammals. I will be very short. And this is the result. The two columns on the right are respectively the plantation areas where there is exotic wood. And well, the original forest has been destroyed, but there is still a wood. So some people, they could say that there is a wood, but it's a monospecific exotic wood. And the other are the open areas. Now you can see that the judgment realized species by species by the people from the community, with data treated in this way, told us that not only the open areas where the forest had been destroyed, but also the areas where the forest had been replaced by a monospecific exotic forest, basically, those areas, they saw their biodiversity crash down. You can see here some pictures from the forest. I don't know, I hope they are not too much, I hope they are visible because of the lights. And this is the exotic plantation. Can you see the difference? So basically, it's finally not a surprise that the people, species by species, they said that they were not able to detect any biodiversity in the new in the new wooded area because this area was plantation. We also did field work. We placed some photographic traps in the wood to detect, also by scientific research, the species in the forest. And again, basically the result was the fact that in the most ruined areas, in the areas which were close to the plantation, the set of the species we could find was very generalistic. I mean, species like the hyena, as an example, species that are able to live close to the man. Instead, some species, the most delicate species, they were living only in the places of the forest where the forest was still untouched, where the forest was still a good quality forest. This was a qualitative data collection, and it basically reconfirmed the result of the participatory workshop. I try to go faster. So let me draw a few conclusions about the work we did in the Mount Forest before together with the community and then using direct research on the field. Our informants, there were 19, understood, discussed, and gained some important concepts useful to participate to a forest management plan. The concepts shouldn't be forgotten in the extension of the management plan. They should be strengthened and spread to the other people of the community. The people, they showed a good level of interest, also for technology, really good level of interest, as well as a sense of a protection for their own forest. So the sense of ownership of the forest was very good after this work. The development of a community-based tourism can only increase this will with positive results. Some traditional habits, the reported clan structure, could bring something positive to the management of the Kiptunga forest. I'm referring to a day when I was walking in the forest together with one of the leaders from the community, and he was explaining to me that before the Mount Forest was managed, was owned by the communities, that the different groups of the communities, they could hunt. They could hunt, but nobody hunted too much because the different groups, they were checking each other. Instead, after removing the possibility to hunt, so after removing the control from a community to another, some poaching were detected. So basically, giving the management of the forest to the community is very important. It's very important because there is ownership and there is control of a resource which is considered absolutely owned by the community. This first work with the community has provided the first frame of the Kiptunga forest, this is the name of the forest, under the ecological and touristic point of view. Participatory data about detectability of wildlife seems to fit with the widely known situation of the ecological fragmentation of the forest. What we see as a forest is a forest in some areas and is very fragmented elsewhere, and represent a strong demonstration of ecological theories. Other fieldwork ongoing is necessary and could in the long term confirm the result from the participatory assessment. A larger sample is necessary as well as sampling other areas of the forest. And finally, what we did after the main mission was a GIS work trying to investigate on remote sensing pictures and GIS which area of the forest they were forest and which area of the forest there were plantations, what was good and what was not. We took some GPS points in the wood, of course. And this is the situation. What we see as a big block of forest is this stuff in reality. So this is the forest. These are plantation areas. These are open areas. This is all together. And if you remove plantation areas and open areas, you get this. So you can understand which is the level of the fragmentation of this forest due to the plantations and due to the usage. So finally, what to do? A large-scale work on the ecological connectivity of the whole eastern Mount Forest would be very important. And we started mapping, you see the yellow dots, all the bridges, all the points which are so important to connect the area of the forest that risk to be completely fragmented. This can be started by a clear mapping of the indigenous forest and its fragmentation agents. The different area of the forest should be connected, as I said. The western areas seem to have a larger risk of ecological isolation than the eastern areas, which is larger and reported as more untouched. Keeping a look to the South Mount Forest, which is another block of forest where WWF International is working, would be very important. The existence of the Great South Ecological Corridor should be assessed. You see the South Mount Forest there. I finished. Thank you.